Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, today joined by Paul McAllister, and we're bringing you another rendition of the Everton rant. So, for those of you that missed the first Everton rant, it's basically the show where we debate the hot topics in the world of Everton and give the fan base a nice little platform to debate the hottest topics in the world of Everton. But this time, the hottest topic is Everton are out of the Carabao Cup. So, what we're going to do today is just talk about the game, the frustration surrounding the game, and talk about Sean Dyche. But there's a whole world of different areas for debate in this game. Paul, how you doing? How you feeling after yesterday's game?
I'm okay, mate. I'm not terribly disappointed because I didn't particularly think Everton had much realistic chance of winning this cup. It just seems even when we've had really good teams down the years, we get nowhere in the Carabao Cup. So yeah, it would have been good to win just to get the confidence up and to give everyone a bit of a lift going into work today, but it wasn't to be, and you could have written it in the stars how it was going to end. So yeah, I'm disappointed, but it's not anything that's got me terribly down. I'm far more concerned about the league form.
No, definitely. I think that the biggest thing for me was the confidence. You look at Southampton, are a team that are down there around us in the league. Obviously, the only other team not to get a win in the Premier League, and also the only other team not to get a point on the board in the Premier League. But for me, as you said, it was just the biggest thing about confidence. And if we get the win there, even on penalties, if we get the win, it might catapult us and maybe spark a reaction at the squad. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. But let's talk about the game. Let's talk about how we played because I think there's a lot of discontent with how we played last night. And I think the biggest thing people are honing in on is the possession, which I don't think is the biggest area that we should be concerned about. I think there's much more pressing issues, but only in the 20s for possession at Goodison is not good enough, especially against a team like Southampton. But talk to me, what was your biggest frustration with the game?
The biggest frustration with the game was just certain players who were in the team and just didn't seem to take the chance. And I'm not talking about the young kids because it's not fair to have a go with them, particularly. They were thrown into a tough situation. I'm talking about the likes of your Decore's, your Betos, players like that who should be playing for the futures, really.
Hmm.
Um, Decore's in the last year of his deal. Beto's not really impressed anybody since he came to the club, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of people who'd be happy to see him moved on again. So you'd think that he'd be wanting to get his head down and really prove that he deserves to be an Everton player and he's got a long-term future here. But just players like that who, for me, just didn't take the chance at all and just let us down, all things considered. The possession, just touched on that briefly. I mean, we are not a possession team, and
Hmm.
Southampton are. So Southampton were all, no matter where they are in the league and how bad or good you think Southampton are and how good or bad Everton are, they were always likely to have more possession than us last
Hmm.
night. That's how they set up under that manager, Russell Martin. They, they play it out from the back and take more touches than we probably need to have. And Everton are just a team that looks to close the gap and press spaces and just be, I don't want to say the word negative, but looks to be very conservative in how we use the
Hmm.
ball. So the possession stats for me is not something to get too hung up on. Myself, I mean, we've seen Everton be a possession-based team before under Roberto Martinez, if anyone remembers, and that was some of the worst stuff that I
Hmm.
can ever remember. And that was with a far better Everton team as well, with far better Everton players. And it
Hmm.
was, I remember everyone was saying how turgid that was. So I don't think the possession is something to throw your hands up over. I think it's just, a convenient reason for people to have a go at a manager who they're already not happy with. But the game itself was just awful, awful, awful. I mean, Southampton, I don't think came and impressed particularly. As I said, I know they had a lot of the ball, but what did they really do with it? Did Joe Virginia have to make any saves? I think I only remember him making one near the end. Everton Diaz found
Yeah.
himself in a bit of space outside the 18-yard box, and he had a crack, and it just went right down Virginia's throat. He covered it up like a cricket ball.
Hmm.
So I don't remember Virginia doing anything. I don't remember the defence being particularly stressed or having any wobbly moments. But other than the two, the clear-cut chances, which I'm sure we'll talk about from Lindstrom, Everton just didn't create anything at
Hmm.
all, and there was just no pattern of play, and it was just it was just dire, all things considered. It was one of those games where you could I'm sure a lot of people just felt like getting up and walking out, and they wouldn't have missed anything.
I think you're spot on there. The biggest thing for me as well was the lack of quality, as you say. The game, the actual quality in the game was just absolutely abysmal. no one seemed to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and actually try and create a chance or try and go forward with the ball. It was just all monotone stuff. It was, we played a lot of long balls, and with a goalkeeper like Jordan Pickford in goal, usually we get something out of those long balls. João Virginia doesn't have the distribution qualities that Jordan Pickford has. The amount of times that the ball somehow nestled into the family enclosure or into the main stand, I think I lost count by the end. So for me, the biggest thing was the lack of quality between both sides. As you said, Jesper Lindstrom, he had two very big opportunities which he should have scored. A player like him, I get 100%. I get he's had a difficult season at Napoli. He's out of match sharpness. He's maybe lacking a little bit of confidence, but a player like that, you have to score those one-on-ones. That for me is the biggest thing. It was just the severe lack of quality in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you say the player Lindstrom is. Maybe he's not the player that we're hoping he
Mm,
is. Maybe he is just, a limited winger who has got a bit of ability and will have, a man of the match performance once or twice a season. But
mm,
for a lot of other games, he'll just drift in and out and not really be a factor, which is what I thought he was in the two games we've seen him so far in these cup games. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, he gets his confidence, his fitness, and he picks up the head of steam. But yeah, he's got to be scoring at least one of those chances. And he had an opportunity for a chance after that, and he bottled it. He got
yeah, yeah,
himself
yeah.
in space, and he tried to cut in on his left foot and take it on the angle, and ended up not having the shot after he shifted onto his weight onto his left, and then he didn't play the ball to Beto either when he had the chance. So
Mm,
by the time he made up his mind what he wanted to do, he was surrounded by defenders. So yeah, it was not a good night for Lindstrom. I mean, as I said, hopefully it'll get better, but I'm just hoping as well that he's not one of these players who we've kind of got on loan because he's just a bit of a nomadic
mm,
player who no one else was really fancying in the summer, and we just got him because he had a lack of options. But yeah, no, but as you said, the João Virginia thing, I was baffled why he kept playing it long like that. There was another, the funniest example of that was deep into stoppage time. It might have been the last action of the game, actually, for the referee blew up. He got the ball and he booted it right downfield, and it went straight back to the Southampton
yeah,
goalie, McCarthy.
it was.
And
That
the
was the last bit. Yeah.
time. And you think, why is he hitting it long like that with our last possible attack of the game up to Ndai, who is not going to win an header against their centre backs at any point in the game, really. So it just stunk again of just complete lack of idea. Players who just got either not getting any instructions or they're not listening to the instructions. So that's the biggest gripe I think people have got with this manager at the moment and with this team. What are we? What is our identity?
Mm,
What do we do to try and win games of football? Because I couldn't tell you. And Sean Dyche has been here coming up over a year and a half now. I
mm,
think he came in the January of 23, didn't he? So he's been here for whatever it is, 20, 21 months. So that's enough time, no matter how limited you are and what's going on above your head. He's had more than enough time to kind of put a stamp on things and install a bit of a playing style on the players. And the only playing style we seem to have is just be as conservative as possible and take no risks at all. And players just take no responsibility and no one drop the shoulder and try and make something happen, apart from Indai, who's only just got here. So yeah, it was a dog of a game, and it did not reflect well on the players or the manager.
no, definitely. I think you were talking about that João Virginia moment where he lumped it up towards Iliman Ndiaye, who was playing as that lone striker. Obviously, that was probably the last action of the game. Iliman Ndiaye was playing as that lone striker, wasn't he? And that brings us on quite nicely. We were talking about the manager and his decision making. It brings us on quite nicely to that Beto Young substitution incident. I want your opinion on that first, because for me, that was insanity. You're a team where you like to play with a target man. Even though everyone has their gripes and everyone has their criticisms of Beto and how he played, the style of play that Dyche likes to play, you need a big man up top. And would it not have been better to utilize Beto and leave him on rather than bring on a very old Ashley Young in that situation?
This manager doesn't help himself, does he? There's a lot of supporters who just are not having him, and they've never had him, and they never will have him, and they'll blame him for things and get angry at him for things that he hasn't even done or said. But there are times when he absolutely gives ammunition to his detractors,
Mm,
and that was one of them last night. Now I know Beto had a bad game. I've
mm,
mentioned it. He had not. He was ineffective. He didn't do anything. His older play is not good enough, but I just didn't understand the thinking of taking off your only striker when the game's not going to extra time. It's not like we need to get a grip of things and you think, right, let's just see this out for 90 minutes and then maybe if we get some subs on, we'll have more legs than them in the 30-minute extra time period, and we'll get them in extra time. That was not the game. After 90 minutes, we go straight to penalty, so there's no need to try and conserve anybody or to get minutes into someone's legs. If we'd have took Beto off and he'd brought on another striker, if Broja or Committee had been available, then that's fine, because you could say Beto had his chance, he hasn't taken it. Let's give one of these other boys a go and see if they can affect the game. And Beto will have to just get on with it. And as far as we know, Beto wasn't struggling with any sort of injury, so we were taking him off to protect him either. So I know he was absolutely terrible, but when he's the only striker who's in the matchday squad, and there's no reason to switch things up in the sense that you want to get fresh legs on the pitch to put up top, because he wasn't replaced by someone coming off. Actually, the player who came off the bench didn't go up in his position. It was Ndai, who was played just as long as he had. So no matter how badly your striker's playing in a cup tie situation like that, when it's just going to penalties in 10, 15 minutes, whenever it was when he came off, you might as well just leave him on in the half chance that he gets a lucky bounce and manages to get through on goal for a chance, or he manages to get his head on something from a set piece, or a defender just mucks up and he manages to get through, because he was far more likely to score staying on, no matter how bad he was playing, than Ndai was when Ndai had played just as long as he had. And Ndai is not, in any sense, a number 9 centre forward. He's either a wide player or a number 10. Now, coming from Marseille, all the people who've been watching him in France and who'd watched him previously in Sheffield said that he's most effective centrally, as like when he plays off the striker, whether it's a number 10 or as the second striker, whatever it is. The role that Decore he was playing for a lot, he's quite good in that role, and Dyche has mainly used him out wide in the games we've had him so far. I don't remember anyone ever saying that he's an effective number 9, and I've never seen any evidence to suggest he's an effective number 9 or that he could be an effective number 9, because as positive as he is and as good technically he is, he just hasn't got the physicality to be a number 9 in this league, and he probably hasn't quite got the pace either, where he can run onto balls over the top. So I just didn't get the idea. If Beto was coming off because he was struggling with an injury, then you'd have sympathy. You'd think, well, the manager's hand was forced there. Or if Beto's coming off for another striker, even if it was just a really young kid who'll be called up from the under-23s, and you think, right, he's stunk the gap out. It's time to give this kid a go, because he's been sat there patient and he can't be any worse than Beto's coming on. But no, I just thought the manager was just, I don't understand his thinking for doing that, and he does not help himself when he's making substitutions like that. And it was right that I think the fans jeered him.
You wouldn't mind, would you, if it was like a change of system, for example? If he was changing the system and maybe, trying to plan B, and after the game it didn't work, and he said, "Oh, I took Beto off for Young because I was changing the system. I was trying to go to a more pragmatic approach to try and win the game." You'd be like, okay, fair enough. He's tried to win the game. He's tried to change the system, but the system stayed the same. All he did was move Young further back, and then he moved Young where McNeil was playing at left back, and then he just stuck Iliman Ndiaye up front, as you said. So for me, it just showed that he's running out of ideas a little bit for me. I think he's trying to stumble across something that just works, and that for me is the sign of a manager that's really struggling for ideas and really struggling to get the best out of this squad, because for me last night, it looked like a few of those players had down tools a little bit for me personally. It looked like a few of them had given up trying to fight for him. And once you get to that situation as a manager, and, with a squad that, we saw it last season that they were very close to turning on him after the Chelsea game. So as you get to that point as a manager, I think your days are numbered. And that sort of brings us on quite nicely to that debate. Is Dyche a dead man walking? What do you think? Is he, has he got limited time, or do you think he's gonna live to fight till the rest of the season? It's a very difficult debate, isn't it?
I don't think he's a dead man walking, in the sense that it's just inevitable he's going to be sacked. I think what will happen is he'll more than likely, this is what will happen, is he'll see out the end of the season, and then won't offer him another contract, and he'll move on. I don't, because he's into his last year anyway, so a decision's got to be made on him very, very soon, either way, because we either sack him and get rid of him if we can afford it, which I'm not sure we can. And even if we can, who would make that decision? Because there's practically no board. There's no board in place at all. It's just Colin Chong, who's the interim CEO, and I don't even know whether he would have that. He's got the power necessarily to fire a manager. Don't know what Machiri's given him to do. But going back to Dyche, you'd either sack him and get someone in now, whether it's Moyes or someone else, or you extend him, because you can't. we can't have a situation where we get to like the last 2 months of the season, say, and we don't know whether the manager's staying, because that just throws everything off the pitch into chaos. Players don't know whether they're staying. Players don't know whether they're going to come, whether they're going to come to the club because they want to play under a certain type of manager. We don't know whether the coaches are staying, etc. Because when you sack the manager, it's not just him who leaves; he takes his coaching staff with him.
Mm,
And for all we know, the coaching staff might be really well liked by the Everton squad. We don't know this. Maybe there's people who
yeah,
work under Dyche who've got good relationships with the players, and certain players are thinking to themselves, well, if the manager goes and he takes, you know, Ian Woan with him or Joe Bloggs with him, then I don't really want to stay here because I like working under him. And if we're going to get rid of him, then I don't want to come. I don't want to play under another manager, etc., etc. So yeah, the club need to make a decision on him one way or the other. There was something I remember. Do you remember a couple of years ago when Steve Cooper was at Forest,
mm,
and this was not the season he was sacked; it was the season before when he kept them up, when he was under massive, massive pressure, and everyone was like, basically, he was the bookie's favourite to get sacked, and he was offered a new deal by the owner, and then Forest's form picked up then because it was
mm,
just the debate was over. It was whether people liked it or didn't. There was clarity. Finally, everyone
mm,
knew what Forest were going to do, so they had to just like, get on with it. So I think that's what Everton have done now. They need to just make a decision and stick with it. They either need to say to the fan base, Sean Dyche is staying. He's getting a new deal, and he's all has to just like it or lump it and get focus on getting behind the team. Or they need to just turn around and decide, well, you know what, we don't like what Dyche is doing. We'll go ring up David Moyes or and ask him to come
yeah,
back, or
yeah,
we'll go and try and get some other manager and try and change the system, etc., etc. We can't just carry on what we're doing, which is just seems as a club taking it day by day, week by week, just winging
mm,
absolutely everything. We have to start putting some plans in place, even if it's just medium term plans. Well, short to medium term. And when I say short term, I don't mean just game to game. I mean, okay, this is what we're going to do for the next year or
mm,
so. We're going to have Sean Dyche as our manager for the next 12 months, or no matter how bad it gets, or it doesn't matter if we pick up a few wins. Sean Dyche is going as soon as this manager agrees that he wants it. So we need to just decide. But no, I don't think he's a dead man walking. I think he'll get to the end of the season, and I think he'll probably go in the summer. Um, if that, and I think after that we'll probably end up just getting, if we stay up and we survive, we'll probably try and go the Marco Silva route again, where we get a younger manager, who wears the chinos and the flats, and we'll try and do that again. And whether that works out, I don't know, but I don't think Sean Dyche is going to be here in 2 or 3 years' time, but I think he will be here for at least the next 6 months.
no, I agree with you. I think there's no long term project. There's no long term future with Sean Dyche, in my opinion. If he even gets to the end of the season, I'm a little bit more I'm a little bit more worried for him in terms of his job. I feel like it could get so bad that the fan base completely turn on him. There's then the vocal majority have then completely turned on him, and then you also have the players turn on him. I think that's not far away from happening. I think last night was very worrying for me in terms of that actually happening. But as you said, there's a big predicament of can we actually sack him because there's the lack of the board in place. Is there a hierarchy to actually do it? Is there actually money to do it? There's
Yeah,
there's no money. So for me, I think that's the biggest predicament is no matter how much we want to sack him, can we do it? I'm not so sure. The thing, with last season, obviously we went, I think was it 14 games without a victory from I think it was the end of
yeah,
December until April when we I think we beat Burnley away from home and then we beat Burnley at home,
we
which was
didn't win
like
again. Yeah, we didn't win again until like March. Yeah.
I think in any normal circumstances that would have seen the manager lose his job 100%. So for me, if he didn't go in that period, how much is it going to take him to go in a bad period this season? It's going to take a lot, isn't it, realistically? So, losing 5 games at the start of the season, it's not going to lose the manager of his job if he didn't lose it last season. That being said, I think that the board will put Mashiri, especially, I think he might be more inclined to make a decision just because it protects his asset. He's trying to sell the club. If Everton are cut adrift and not able to escape relegation, the stocks of the club go down massively in Mashiri's estimate. So I think that might be the only thing that would spark Mashiri into a reaction and into a decision of him sacking Sean Dyche.
I will say this though, if the players have down tools on the manager, then the players can get effed. As far as I'm
Mm,
concerned, the players have got no right to down tools on any manager because the
yeah.
money they're on. but they haven't got right to turn. They've already down tools on 3 or 4 managers already. Most of them. Some of them have down tools on even more than that because they've been here for 6, 7, 8 years.
Mm,
So I'm not bothered if the players come out and say I don't like playing under Sean Dyche, or if they make it obvious in the body language and the
mm,
performances that they're not happy. You can sod off if you're a
mm,
footballer and you're getting a boo boo lip over having to play for Sean Dyche. We, the fans, are entitled to have a bit of a whinge because we're paying fortunes and
mm,
investing all this emotionally into this club, and we're getting all this crap thrown back at us. If
mm,
you're a player, you can sod off. So one player who's been bad for it in the past, I think, I don't want to make it sound like I'm just singling him out and got a vendetta, is Decore, because Decore did
mm.
exactly that to Frank Lampard, and he's
Yeah.
gone back. Now it looks like he's lost interest under Sean Dyche. I know he had a big 6 to 12 months where he was one of probably our most important player when Dyche initially came in, but ever since he got injured in whenever it was in that Burnley game we were talking about in November last year, he has looked a shadow of the player he still is. Now, maybe he's got some sort of long-term injury problem that we don't know about. I don't know that. But if he's fully fit and he's had nothing wrong with him for months now, and he's putting in performances like that, then that tells me that he's lost interest, just like he did under the previous manager, because he has got fun for doing it. And there's a couple of others who I could name as well, who would just think, you know what, you cheeky so and so, the money you're on and the attitude that you've got, and you're down in tools on managers, you've got no right to do that. At the end of the day,
Mm.
you paid a fortune, and the fans were supporting you, and the fans are getting your name on the back of the shirts, and the fans are not screaming for you to lose your job. Ah, yeah, so you should be fighting. You should be fighting for the badge. And a lot of these players are disgracing themselves. So
Mm.
I know the manager was terrible in that, particularly in that Bournemouth game with his substitutions, but the players should not be conceding 3 goals in whatever it was, 6 minutes to Bournemouth like that. That was just players just doing stupid things and not concentrating. And it was a disgrace. So yeah, I will say that all of this, oh, the players don't want to play for him. Any supporter, in my opinion, if you want to rationalise sacking Sean Dyche because you think the players don't like him, then honest to God, stop and think, because these players have got no right to demand that any manager gets sacked the way
Mm.
they've carried.
No, yeah, no, you're definitely spot on. You're 100% spot on there. I think, any player that wants to down tools, the amount, as you said, the amount of money that they're paid, I think you can kind of sympathize for Dyche in that sense a little bit if any player does decide to down tools and completely give up on the way he's playing, the system he's playing. I think, the
Well,
level of
that says more about them than
yeah,
it says about him, any manager,
100%.
as far as
The level of professionalism that they should show to stick with the manager until the day he leaves the club, I think that's spot on. You're 100% right there. But I think, for players like someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, for example, do you think he is, content with playing the way that Sean Dyche plays? I think, his body language has shown in recent weeks, especially, that he isn't really content with playing this target man football, this long ball where he has to, dig in, get his elbows out. I don't think he's content. I think he more sees himself as a goal scorer.
I don't care if he's content with it or he's not. He'll do as he's told, as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned. Would I play him like that? Do I think Dyche is right for playing him in that way? No, I don't. I
Mm,
get the point where I get the point that he could be better utilised, but I don't care if the player doesn't like the role he's serving. As I said, the money he's on, and look, he saw Calvert Lewin saw his ass in the summer. He wanted to leave in the summer, and no one came in and put any money down
mm,
for him. So I
yeah.
don't know if he doesn't like it. Then I don't know where he thinks he could go instead, because he didn't get any. He did. No one gave him another option, did they?
No,
So his
spot
decision
on.
was either get your head down and get on with it, or sit in the reserves, because that's what's going to happen, isn't it? It's not like you can go to another club because no one came in and bid for you. The only club, from what we would heard as a fan base in terms of rumours, was Newcastle put an inquiry in for him and then couldn't agree on the money or on wages. I think his demands were too high or something like that. It was that it was a deal that involved that Minter who went to Brighton, who looks a
Yeah,
quality
yeah, yeah.
player. Apparently, yeah, they were going to go. What Minter was going to come to us, and Calvert-Lewin was going to go there, and the deal couldn't get done. It broke down, and apparently it broke down because something couldn't be agreed between Calvert-Lewin and Newcastle. So if Calvert-Lewin or any other player is sulking, thinking I don't want to play under Sean Dyche in this system, I don't think it's right, and it's getting up, and it's not getting the best out of me. Then I'm sorry, you can shut up. You
Yeah.
can do as you do, because where else do you think you're going to go? You owe Everton an awful lot, even if you don't like the manager, and even if the supporters don't like the manager, the supporters have got the right to have a pop. You haven't.
No, definitely. You're spot on. Right. Well, it's going to be a very interesting week. Obviously, we've got a tough game against Leicester on Saturday, and then we go to Goodison again the week after against Crystal Palace. But that's all we've got time for today on the Everton rant. Thank you, Paul. It's been an interesting debate there about Dyche and about how we played in the Southampton game. But Blues, let me know in the comments what you're thinking about Sean Dyche, what you're thinking about the frustration surrounding getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup to Southampton on penalties. Obviously, it was a very disappointing evening to be an Evertonian, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you, Paul, again. Appreciate having you on.
No worries, mate. Ollie, speak again soon, mate. Hopefully
Speak to you
for
soon.
better things.
Fingers crossed, Dave. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.